Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I have a little review, swatches, and demo of a new product. Today I'm going to be talking about the Huda Beauty Mauve's Obsession palette. So she does have three other ones. There's a colorful one, a smoky one, and then a more like warm toned brown one, and then I have the mauve one. So this one is more pinky tones. Bear in mind, mine is already used and dirty, but this is what she looks like. Absolutely stunning. I fell in love with it as soon as I saw it. This little guy sells for $27 at Sephora. It is a lot smaller than her other palettes, but the price point reflects that as well. I have not tried her other palettes, so I won't be able to compare this one to those for you, but I'm going to give you a good idea of how I think this palette performs so that you can make your best judgment on if you want to pick it up and try it or not. Just for reference, this palette has 1.3 grams of product, and her larger ones have, sorry, I'm looking it up for you guys. Her larger ones have 25.2 grams of product, so a whole lot more, but the price is a whole lot better for these. And if you're just wanting to try out her shadows and you don't need a whole big range of colors, then this might be the way to go. So I'm going to insert some swatches into the video for you guys if I haven't already started playing them. For me, swatches are not the best indication on how a product performs. I do think that they can show how pigmented a product is or if it's going to be patchy, but I have been surprised and seen products perform well even if their swatches didn't perform well. But in the clip, you are going to be able to see which shades I had to layer up a couple times and which ones looked good with one swipe. And then in the demo, you can see exactly how those shades performed using a brush on my lids. So let's get into the demo, and then I will be back and give you guys my thoughts on this palette.
Just the moment you looked at me from across the room, those eyes kept following me. Something popped in my brain. Oh baby, only you I see. Feels like I'm going insane, and only you can save me. Feels like I'm drowning in ocean's blue. Baby, come on, baby, baby, come on, let's go. I'm losing control of the lights in this space. Keep jumping around, all I see is your face. But you're moving closer, no time to escape. Your hand on my shoulder shoots me into space, and I can't deny how badly I need you now. 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 You take away my breath now, boy. Don't you dare steal my heart now, boy. I know you're something that I'll enjoy. Move a little bit closer now, to some place where there ain't no crowds. I wanna get to know you right here and now. I got trapped in your touch the moment you took my hand. Led me all the way to the ocean sand. You told me don't worry as the moonlight gled. I pulled you in close, so whispered I'm not scared. I'm losing control of the lights in this place. Keep jumping around, all I see is your face. But you're moving closer, no time to escape. Your hand on my shoulder shoots me into space, and I can't deny how badly I need you now. I need you now. I need you now.
So, like I said, this palette retails for $27 at Sephora. It is pretty tiny. You can see it's like the size of my hand. However, I do think $27 is a pretty fair price. Compared to a lot of other smaller palettes at Sephora, it's about the same price point. I know the Urban Decay Naked Basics is around $29, and I would say this palette has the same amount, if not more, amount of product in it. So I think the price is pretty fair. Of course, it's high-end, it's at Sephora, it's not going to be cheap, but for what you're getting, I think it's a fair price point. As far as colors selection goes, I am obsessed with this palette. I love the colors in it. I live for these pinky, mauve, romantic kind of tones. So the second I saw this, I knew I had to pick it up. I don't know if I already mentioned, I definitely was thinking about getting the warm toned brown one too. But I decided I would try this one first and then see if I should go back for that one. This palette comes with 3 shimmer shades and then it has 6 matte shades in it. I know that the other Obsessions palettes that she has a different ratio of shimmers and mattes. The more warm-toned brown palette has only 1 shimmer and the rest are mattes, so that's something to keep in mind. If maybe you like more shimmer or more matte, you maybe want to see which palettes have what variation of those finishes. As far as the performance of these shadows go, I think they were pretty good. They are not my favorite shadows ever. They did come off super pigmented, almost a little bit too, not too pigmented, but they were a little bit too creamy for me, I guess. When I was blending, or like when I first put my brush down, you could see a lot of product getting distributed and then like my brush almost skipping a little bit for some of them. I would say these two right here are the ones that I had the most trouble with. Just skipping a little bit and not going on super easy, and I think that's just because they were so creamy. They weren't like that powder that just kind of wants to glide across. The pigment kind of just got stuck a little bit, but as you can see, I was able to blend them just fine with just a little bit more effort. I would say the biggest letdown for this palette was this shade for me. I think it still looks beautiful and it performed like decently enough, but it doesn't come off the way that I see it in the pan. So in the pan, to me, it looks like a dark red, like kind of wine color. And on my eyes, I think it looks definitely more like a vibrant pink. So even though I was pleased with how the eye look turned out, and I think the color on my eyes looks beautiful, it's not what I expected this color to be. So that was kind of a letdown. Other than that, I think all of the other shades came off true to how they look in the pan. This shade right here that is on the middle of my eyelid for this halo eye was probably my favorite color. It's super pigmented and buttery. For these shimmers, I will admit I did have to wet my brush. I don't know if you noticed in the little demo, but just using my brush and going straight to my eyelid, I didn't feel like the product transferred onto my eyelid well, so I did have to wet it, and then it came off super pigmented. And that's not a problem for me, but if you don't like having to go through wetting your brush, then you might want to pass on this, or at least go for maybe one of the palettes that just has like 1 or 2 shimmers in it, because I definitely think for all of these you're going to have to wet your brush if you want a decent payoff with those colors. The only other things that I feel like this palette maybe is missing is, and I know since it's small there's not a bunch of room, but one of 2 things I think could happen. I would either like a lighter shimmer color, lighter than this one, to use in my inner corner and maybe on my brow bone, or a lighter transition shade than this one, because if you are lighter than me, then this might be too dark for you. I was able to make it work, but even for my skin tone, I would like to see something a little bit lighter than this one. And I know we have this one, which I haven't tried, so maybe that one would work, but to me those look like they would be similar as far as how dark they are. So maybe something just like a little bit lighter than this, so that this one didn't have to work as hard to be a transition shade. overall, I would say I do recommend this palette. If you love these mauve pinky tones like I do, then I think you're going to actually really like this palette. There aren't too many other palettes that I can think of that have this exact color selection. I've made maybe a similar eye that I'm wearing now using my Modern Renaissance palette. So if you have that and you're only going to do looks like maybe I'm wearing, then maybe you can skip this palette, but it is missing those more pinky shimmer tones. So I think it's still worth picking up, and especially if you have been wanting to try Huda Beauty shadows and you didn't want to commit to her larger, more expensive palettes, then this is definitely a good way to go just to try them out, because that's how I felt. I didn't want to commit to such an expensive palette that I didn't know if I would love or use that much. So this way you still get a decent amount of shades to choose from, and she does have her other palettes that are smaller like this, and you don't have to commit to such a large price tag. I think that's pretty much it, guys. So thank you so much for spending your time with me today. Please like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, and come talk to me in the comments below. Let me know if you've tried this palette, if you want to pick it up, if you have any of her other ones, or just come say hi to me, and I will see you guys in my next video.